What's up, everybody? Episode 14, if you can believe it, of the live cast. We got our boy Laker back. What's going on, man?
How you doing, brother?
Lucky enough to spend some time last week down on Guntersville with Laker. I can tell you, if you're looking for a guide, you're going to be in the Guntersville area. Hit Laker up on his Instagram page. He'll put you on some fish. You'll have a good time. It was awesome to get out there with him, and we got some pretty cool stuff coming down the road from Laker.
It's always a pleasure working with you, man.
Yeah, what are you up to? What'd you do today?
Well, today was kind of an off day. I hit the gym a little bit, did some tackling the boat. I fished just about every day, so I had to get stuff back in order today.
Right. How's your dad doing? Mom doing okay?
Good, man. He's good. They're all inside hanging out. Everybody's good.
I hope they're watching.
I hope so too. They better be.
I do have one thing to ask you. I understand there was a 2-on-2 basketball game over the weekend, and we all know Oakley's a stud basketball player. Just give Oakley a shout out to what happened, please.
I'm so glad you asked this question. So my good buddy David Ridley was here. David fishes the Toyota Series with me as well. He's from Texas, but he was here at the house, and he was about to leave. He fished the Spro tournament last Saturday, and I couldn't fish it, unfortunately, because I'm a guide out here. But he got home, back to the house, getting his stuff together, and Oakley and his little buddy were out there at the basketball court shooting some hoops, talking some smack to me, and David heard it. David's a big basketball guy, so I hadn't played basketball in at least 5 months, like bottom line. So I'm out there in my fishing clothes. I've still got my Hey Dude shoes, the flat Hey Dudes on. Oakley's talking smack, and David said, all right, let's get this 2v2 going. So Oakley and his other basketball buddy that both play for the high school team, they start double teaming us, seeing if they can get on anything, and we took them to the house, dude. It was pretty bad. It was 21-6, and David kind of fed me the ball more than anything because I was under the goal right on my brother. He wanted to guard me because he said I couldn't handle the pressure. So I put that work in on him.
Well, heck, just cherish that moment because it won't be a whole lot longer you'll be able to do that. So cherish that moment. Guys, I gotta say again, it is as far as an angler, Oakley, Laker is skilled, and he does a good job explaining what's going on the water. Tonight we have another young angler that's had quite a bit of success in his career. He's going to talk to us about breaking down the fall transition. Laker, I'm sure you have that, your own opinions on that. So I'd like to see what you two young anglers have to say about it. So let's go ahead and bring Braxton on in here and get the show started. Braxton, what's happening?
There he is.
How's it going, guys?
Good, man. So I promise you I'm going to call you by your right name, not your brother's name. So anyway, we're good. I just got back from down at Guntersville. We had a good time down there with the Howe family and Laker showed me some things out on Guntersville that was pretty impressive. But the main reason I wanted to have this show tonight was to talk about the fall transition and how trying that can be and how much of a challenge it could be, and maybe get you to talk about some of the baits and techniques you've used over the years to become successful at dealing with this time of year.
Yeah, so and it's a little different. He's fishing Guntersville. Obviously, that's a grass lake. Everybody knows that. That's what that place is famous for. I kind of approach the fall a little differently because everything I grew up fishing down here is a lot of rock and a lot of wood, and it's a lot of current driven stuff, and we catch a lot of big spots in the fall. And so, when I'm looking for the big spots in the fall, I'm concentrating on those hard targets, and I'm looking for places where they can push that bait, and get up around that hard cover, and even catch a big largemouth up really shallow in the fall on that same kind of hard cover. But that's pretty much what I do, and that's the biggest difference between the two. Me being on the Coosa River and him being on the Tennessee River, and the grass and the grass lakes transition a little differently than the river and the hard target lakes.
Yeah.
So moving into the fall, again, even at the Smith Lake tournament last week, everybody was talking about how tough it was and, a struggle to catch a limit. With the temperatures cooling, at some point it's going to get better for sure. But in this funky time period we have right now, what are some baits that you would recommend to throw to try to get those bites and fill out that limit?
It's all going to depend, really. This can be a tough time of year because you've got really to get into a full, wide open kind of fall bite. That water temperature needs to get on down a little bit, and that really starts pushing those fish up shallower. Smith Lake, I would imagine those guys. I didn't really keep up with the tournament or anything like that, but just from what I know about the place, you probably had guys fishing out as far as 40, 45 foot deep, and I'm sure you had guys that were all the way in the backs of the creeks fishing in less than 2 foot of water. And that's the big thing, is a lot of those fish are just so spread out right now. One of my biggest keys is just to follow the bait. Especially if I can see the bait on like a forward facing sonar. The Lowrance active target's great for that, to be able to see where that bait's at, and then I can kind of concentrate on that depth. But I'm trying to match the hatch. They're concentrating on shad. Obviously, if I can get them to come up on top water, that's my favorite way to catch them. Yo-Zuri 3DB pencil, 5-inch pencil is great for that. But, I'll mix in some crankbaits too. You looking for those fish if they're out as far as 12, 15 foot, all the way up to, 2-3 foot of water. I've got a crankbait I can mix in there. Even throw a lot of spinnerbaits and stuff in the fall. Nichols Pulsator spinnerbait is. And the key is just to match the size, figure out where exactly the bait's at, match the size of the bait, and pretty much everything I throw in the fall is going to be shad pattern, because they're just so keyed in on the shad.
Oh, there's no doubt, man. It's the same general pattern here in Guntersville as well. It's a lot of top water, like the walking boss, any kind of a spook type bait. Rattle trap works this time of year. Anything shad that's going to make those fish react, because in the fall, it's especially here on Guntersville, the creek is a whole lot different. I used to live kind of close to the Coosa, so I know a little bit about what you deal with down there, unfortunately. But out here on Guntersville, especially, these fish, it's like they get lazy almost in the fall. They don't really want to eat something because they're hungry. It's like they're just eating it because it's coming by their face and they're reacting. Right. Buzzbait works really good too for that.
Yeah, I agree with the buzzbait. Buzzbaits, I've always in the fall, pretty much year round, but definitely in the fall, I've got a buzzbait on the deck. Buzzbait, spinnerbait, top water, and a crankbait, whether it be a square bill, a mid runner, and I try to keep it small most of the time. Guntersville can be different. Guntersville has a lot of big gizzard shad in it, so you can still get away with some of the bigger baits this time of year. But a lot of the lakes down here, it's all threadfin, and you're talking threadfin that are 1.5 2 inches long, and little bitty guys, and they just get so keyed in on that little bitty bait that a lot of times if I'm cranking, I like something like the the Yo-Zuri 1.5 body. Square bill or mid diver to figure out exactly where those fish are at. But dealing with those fish on those grass lakes, it's all about, at the end of the day, it's all about figuring out exactly where those fish want to be and have a place to ambush, because they're following those shad. And if there's a grass line going back into a flat or going back into a ditch or something that's a good defined grass line, a lot of times those fish will be sitting tucked up in that grass waiting for those shad to come down the edge. And it's just all about ambush points and bait this time of year, especially as it gets colder and those fish really start feeding up for the winter. So that's the main takeaway for the fall and the fall transition. And it can be it can be brutal this time of year, but as it gets a little cooler, it's going to start getting really good.
Yeah, it is. You hit the nail on the head on that, on the grass lines and stuff. So, like on the Coosa River, I know this time of year it gets really tough. You're looking for what kind of structure there mainly?
Mainly, it's all hard stuff, whether that's laydowns, boat docks, seawalls. Some riprap comes into play. Riprap a lot of times is more associated with seawalls down here. There's not like causeways or anything like y'all have up there. But, it's all hard stuff unless you can find a good like a water willow line, we call it water willow, it's bank grass. If you can find a good defined bank grass. But most of the time I'm looking for, hard targets, boat docks, a lot of fish, a lot of lay downs, some brush piles if you can find them in creek swings and stuff like that where they're not too deep. If I'm fishing a brush pile, I'm looking for like a 5 to 8 foot deep brush pile.
Yeah. So let's say you're going to a new lake, like, for instance, the Potomac River right now. It's getting really the greatest fish in the world. You made that face. I know it's not fun, but it's where Ricky's from. So, what would you look for if you go to the Potomac for the first time? You've just heard that it's a tough place and it's this time of year and you got a tournament there in 3 days. What are you going to do to start breaking that place down?
If they made me go to the Potomac, I'd go, but I wouldn't just go for fun. That's not my favorite place to be. No, so, again, that's going to be more, and that's different because that's a current driven tidal fishery, but it's also a grass fishery. And so, it's kind of a little bit of mix of both the Coosa and Guntersville. Guntersville obviously gets a lot of current through it as well, but, it can be a hard target place. I would probably start just going up there. I've never been this time of year. I'd probably start looking at maybe some ditches leading into some of those flats. And start in the grass, whether that be, throwing a rattling vibe, cranking the edge of it, throwing a spinnerbait down the edge of it, maybe frog a little bit to see if the mats look good and cheesy, frog a little bit, see if that's still going on. And then I'd probably make the transition to hard targets from there, whether that be boat docks or lay downs or anything like that I can find where that current's kind of blowing across those areas.
And the water temperature on the Potomac 72 right now. My buddy Lenny Baird just wanted to drop that on y'all. Yeah,
it's we say the fall transition right now. We're still in that kind of dog days stage down here because I think tomorrow the high is supposed to be like 90. So we still got water. Our water's still pretty warm.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess at what water temperature do you really start considering it to be the fall transition? I guess we are a little bit early.
Yeah. And it's one of those. There are fish moving right now. I mean, it's the time of year. The days are getting shorter. The fish know that. They feel that. So they're starting to make some of that transitions. But when kind of my key time is when that water gets down in the 60s is when I really like. That's when it's the most wide open to me. And that's when you can go out on the lake and have some truly spectacular days fishing. But that's when I really, really get excited is when that water temperature gets back down in the 60s.
So, Braxton, with that being said, you hit on something right there. And I'd kind of like to know y'all's opinion on it, that maybe it's not so much the actual water temperature as just the days getting shorter. The fish seem to know, by the amount of daylight, and does the water temperature really have that much effect on it, or do they key more on the shorter days?
No, I think it's probably a little bit of both. Same in the the front side of the year in the spawn. Those fish feel the moon, they feel the days getting longer, and I think it gets them moving. And they may stage in an area, just outside where they want to be until the water temperature gets there. But they're already aware of what's going on and they're already making their moves. And, it's not quite as temperature dependent in the fall because all they're doing is they're just looking to eat. They're bait driven. They're not spawn driven. So, you get in a situation like that in the fall, they start feeling those days getting shorter and they'll go to moving. And when the temperature drops and it really gets right to where they feel comfortable being up shallow and, running around and being super active, then that's when you start getting a lot of schooling. You start having, a lot of bait chasing, whether that be, they don't even have to be schooling. They could just be, you run across wolf packs and things like that, chasing bait in areas. So, it's all right now. They're just so scattered out. But as it cools off and more of those fish get comfortable, when that water temperature gets where they like it, they'll get up there and really start feeding.
Yeah, like what you said about them scattering out, especially here in the Coosa River and stuff like that. They usually tend to group up pretty well on those flats and stuff like you're talking about. But areas like Gunnersville here, there's a problem that we run into with the grass. There's so much eelgrass and it all looks the same that those fish, especially this time of year when there's so much bait, they kind of just scatter, and you'll run into like little teeny tiny pods where there'll be like 3 or 4 fish, and you'll have to move another 100 yards to find a little pod of fish,
Yeah. And it's just, it's more one of those things where they haven't really fully committed. All the bait hasn't fully committed to make the push to the backs of the creeks. And so that really keeps those fish, kind of scattered.
Yeah, it really does. So I'm in the Toyotas, you know that. So I've noticed, how old are you?
I am 34, just turned 34.
34. Dang, I thought you were a little bit younger.
Yeah.
You got that baby face about you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So as a young angler, as myself and anyone else trying to get up to the pro circuit through Toyotas or Opens, whatever it may be, what are some general tips that you could give someone like myself to kind of speed the process along? I know you can't really speed that process along. It's just whether you make it or not. But is there something that you noticed when you were coming up that made it a little bit more like when it clicked?
Yeah, I say I'm 34, and which I am, but I'm getting ready to go into my 7th year, full time on tour. So, I kind of started at a young age, considering, when a lot of guys typically don't start fishing professionally until they're around my age or a little older.
Yeah.
But I took a little bit different path. I started with the college fishing. I was, kind of on the forefront of that and helped start the team at the school I was at the time.
Where'd you go?
I helped start the team at UAB, okay. And then I ended up switching majors and transferred down to Auburn. And by the time I made it down to Auburn, I was kind of, at that point, I'd already done a lot of the college stuff, and that I decided I wanted to fish the tour as a co-angler. And so I jumped in there and did that for a couple of years and had some success doing that. And that kind of propelled me up to make the leap to the tour. But, the main thing I can tell young anglers is, we all kind of put a timeline on it, where we want to be, when we want to be there. But at the same time, you kind of almost have to let it happen.
Yeah.
And you can't rush yourself. You gotta make sure that you make the move when it's right for you, when you feel comfortable doing it. The learning curve when you get to that kind of level is, it goes up. BFLs, there's a learning curve there, coming from local tournaments, going to fish BFLs, and then you make the step up to the Toyotas and go to the regional level, and it's completely different. And then there's another learning curve as you go on up from there. And it's just, when you start getting on that upper echelon, the learning curve's super steep. So you have to be confident in yourself and your abilities, and be able to make the adjustments that need to be made throughout a tournament day. And so, main thing is, when you go, you need to be confident in your abilities and make sure you don't rush into things too fast, because, let's face it, man, you get up to fishing that kind of, any kind of national level, and it's pricey to even get into the game.
Yeah.
So, I've seen guys do it. I've seen guys get in, and maybe they were just a little too early when they got in, and it was hard for them to sustain. And they ended up, going back to work and kind of giving up on their dream because they might have took that step 1 or 2 years too early. Yeah.
That's the side of things that I don't think a lot of people really notice when they're thinking about, professional fishing, you get to catch bass for a living. I think that a lot of people, if they could see the bad side of it, it wouldn't look as
Yeah.
appealing, because you can get in, and like you said, if you can't hang with the competition, because you might have been really good in your local tournaments, BFLs, you might have done okay in Toyotas, but when you get up to that next level, I feel like, especially for myself, I'm going to have to make sure I'm ready, like you were saying, because when you get in that newer level, the competition goes up, and because when with money, it brings a higher level of competition, and if you're not ready, you'll lose your butt quick in it.
Right. And there's an added stress factor when you sit there and you're looking at that, I just paid this entry fee to be here. And, it's a lot. The entry fees at the national level are high. And, you start going, I really need to cut a check, because nobody is going to commit to doing it to only go one tournament at a time. When you commit to fishing a trail, you want to fish the whole trail.
Yeah.
And then, you see guys get into situations where it's like, I have to cut a check just to make the next tournament. Mm-hmm. And that's never a good situation. That never tends to work out well. And you hate to see guys put themselves in those kind of situations, because the stress is, pretty outstanding. And I mean, talking about guys that have success at the BFL levels and have success at the local levels, and then go to try to make that step up. And when you get to a national level,
Yeah.
You show up to a local tournament, you may be fishing against a couple of guys, mm-hmm. and it when you show there may be 100 boats that show up, but you really know who your competition is.
Yeah.
Well, and the Toyotas kind of condense that field a little more, and then you get to the national level, and everybody that's launching their boat that morning is one of those handful of guys that is known for being one of those guys in their local level. That, you go to the ramp and you see, so-and-so, to a local tournament, you see so-and-so sitting there, and you're going to have to outfish him that day because he's really good there. Well, everybody that fishes on a national level is that somebody from wherever they're from. And so the competition is it's pretty stout. And I think that goes across, any of the three national trails, and, it's good fishermen, and you can't argue with that.
So I got sidetracked for a minute, but I got to interject a couple things. Braxton, I don't want to hear about the Potomac. You had a pretty rough first day there. But you ended up figuring them out and catching them pretty good. I'll find that video and repost it on Bass 365 social pages, just so you can see how much he doesn't like the Potomac River. Yeah. So, and I think you're exactly right in what you're saying about when you go out there, you can absolutely not be worried about where your next house payment is going to come from,
right,
or boat payment, or whatever the case may be. With that being said, and I'm going to get back off here, I want y'all to kind of talk it out. How important is the mental part of it? Being prepared to go out there and fish against the best in the country, and how much of a part does that play in your success? Can an average fisherman that has a great mental attitude go out there and do better than somebody that may be very skilled, but just in the back of his head is saying, "Oh man, that's so and so. Oh man, that's so and so." So I'm gonna hop off here and let y'all deal with that for a minute.
Yeah. The mental side of the game is actually a huge part of the game. I would say probably 80-85% of it can be mental. You could have had the best practice, of your life, and if you can't keep your head buttoned on, then it doesn't matter if you can't put them on the scales at the end of the day of the tournament. But and that being said too, you even if you have a terrible practice or a terrible first day, you still have to have the ability to put that out of your mind and keep an open mind and go do something different the next day to try to salvage some points or try to make a big comeback to get a check. When your back's up against the wall, that's where your mental stuff really comes in.
Yeah, I feel like that's the difference between someone at a national level like yourself and someone that's fishing local stuff, because a lot of times when you're fishing a 2 or 3 day event, mm-hmm. a guy at your level that's used to that kind of pressure, you'll maybe say you have 10 pounds day one, you're only 5 pounds out of the cut. Well, if you can catch this much, you can make that cut and make a check. and be fine. But I feel like someone at the local level that's used to just fishing single day tournaments and stuff gets in that situation, and he'll already defeat himself in his mind because of where he's at behind the cut. And when he gets out there, he's fishing in a bad attitude and inevitably kind of just hurts himself,
Right. And, some of the hardest tournaments, I would say smallmouth tournaments or spotted bass tournaments where weights are really tight or a really tough fishery or something like that, where you may only have 9 pounds the first day and you need to go catch 14 pounds to make a check. But if you look at it, 14 pounds is one of the bigger bags. And in a multi-day tournament, in some of those, just a couple of pounds or even a couple of ounces can move you 20, 30 places, especially on smallmouth. You're talking 2-3 ounces on smallmouth tournaments move you 20 or 30 places. Yeah. And so, your ability to kind of stay and not let that get ahead of you. Yeah, you had 9 pounds the first day. You're sitting in 103rd. You need to catch 12 pounds. Well, you look, 12 pounds was in like 30th on the first day. So you got to go catch a big bag, and you can't let that. You got to keep your mind in the game to be able to do that. To be able to kind of overcome and put that 9 pound day out of your mind and go catch one of the bigger bags of the tournament to get yourself back into contention for a check or in contention to make a cut or something like that. And so, and the only way you're going to do that is to put yourself in those kind of situations and kind of force yourself to adapt and overcome. And once you get the confidence in yourself to be able to do that, I mean, my first couple of years of, on tour, there were some long drives home where I'm questioning myself. I made the wrong decisions or, kind of let things get, maybe let myself get a little spun out. And, you're driving home from upstate New York and you're talking about 23-hour drive to sit there and think about, man, I made the wrong decision. And that's where, that kind of comes in. Preparation's key. Fishing ability, everybody out there's got the fishing ability to be there. There are guys that will never make a cast on a national level that could come and compete on the national level. They just don't have the opportunity to get there. But that the mental ability to kind of overcome whatever adversity is thrown at you and keep your head in the game, because a one-day pot derby at home is completely different over, a 3 or 4 day derby on the road, especially when you're looking at, the difference in one day could make or break your whole season, whether you make the championship or anything like that. So, it's a grind, it's a long haul, and you gotta stay grounded and gotta stay focused to make it through it.
Yeah, I feel like the other side of that too, we're talking about confidence and stuff. I feel like the other side of that would be, a lot of guys will catch a small bag and have to overcome that. But what about the guys that catch a 25-pound bag on day one, mm-hmm. and they're overconfident and they go out there, and then when they don't catch them right off the bat, it spins them out. That's something else that'll get you too.
It can. Everybody wants to, compare. Sorry, my son's getting ready to go to bed. Good night, buddy. Everybody wants to think about. Let me gather my thoughts here. Overconfidence. Everybody wants to say that the fishing, you're fishing against the competition. Yeah, you're fishing against the competition, but at the end of the day, you're not really fishing against them. You're fishing against the fish. Yeah. They have fins, they have tails, and they're not scared to use them. And they will completely leave on you no matter how good you think you got them dialed in. And so, you get in one area and you have a big bag, and just say, you're sitting in second or you're leading the tournament after the first day, and you roll up to your spot and you're like, I busted them here yesterday, and you sit there and you just die on that spot because something has changed. Weather conditions have changed. Maybe you leaned on them a little too hard. Maybe you got a little extra boat pressure. Something is different than it was the first day. And if you stay with them too long and don't allow yourself to adapt, then yeah, you might have been leading the first day, but if you don't catch them on day 2, you don't even make the cut.
Yep. That kills a lot of really good anglers, I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they say you can't win it on day 1, but you can certainly lose it, right?
You can lose on day 1. Absolutely.
So with that being said, we got really off track on this topic tonight, but I'm liking the way it's going. Here's another question I have for you two young anglers, and I've had conversations with your dad about this, Laker. How much do you trust your gut when you're out there on the water? How many times have you made a decision purely on gut? We know what happened to Randy when he made a gut decision. Does that play a part into what you do? And I mean, is it a factor in how you fish?
Yeah, it definitely is. You got to trust your gut when you're on the water. I know a lot of times this year, my gut didn't really pay off for me. The first year it did. This year, this is my second season on Toyotas, and my gut has not been right very often this season, but you get that and you got to just overcome it. I know Braxton's definitely had seasons where his gut spun him out a little bit.
Yeah. So, yeah. And it can be tournament to tournament, day to day. I try to always keep that open mind and fish by my gut. And, sometimes sometimes it leads you astray. I mean, there's just no way to stop it. But it's kind of one of those things when I go into a tournament day or come to the end of a tournament day, and I had this, nagging feeling, hey, I need to go pick up a buzzbait and throw it. And I just keep, grinding, doing what I'm doing, and it may not be working. I may be getting a bite here or there, just enough to keep me interested. And then I get back to the ramp and I'm riding home in the truck that afternoon or riding back to the hotel, wherever we're staying. And I'm going, man, I probably should have gone and thrown a buzzbait. What could have happened if I'd have thrown a buzzbait? And yeah, there's always the chance if you go throw the buzzbait, you don't get another bite. Yeah. But there's always a chance too. You go roll in one pocket and throw a buzzbait and you pop a 5 and a 6 in the last 30 minutes and you look like a hero. And it's you got to. And that comes down to the mental part of it, and then also what you asked earlier about making sure that you're prepared and that you trust yourself. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's not a team sport anymore. It's on you, and you live with the decisions you make. You either catch them and go across the stage with a big smile, or you go across the stage kind of biting your lip with an 8-pound bag and you're like, man, I really stunk it up today. But it's all on you. And so you got to know, you got to trust yourself, and you got to make sure you listen. You're willing to listen to your gut when your gut's telling you to go throw the buzzbait.
Yeah, I think hindsight in this sport is always 20/20, because like you were saying about throwing the buzzbait, I've had plenty of tournaments where I've been out there and I've been stuck on one bait because I got that one big bite in practice on it. I'm like, well, just if. And then I've got this other idea in my head and I don't go do it. And then the worst part is, especially, I don't know if you talk to a lot of guys after you get off the water, but that'll kill you sometimes. You talk to somebody that did exactly what you were thinking about doing, and then you're kicking yourself for the rest of the week because you're like, dang it, man, if I had just listened to that idea, I would have done this, this, and this. And there's always that what if factor.
Right.
Go in that pocket and pop a 5 and a 6. That's the thing. People don't see what it's like on the water. They just see you walking across that stage with 8 pounds or 20 pounds,
Mm-hmm. That's it. And, you got to love it when you walk across the stage with the 8-pound bag and you start getting the phone calls and the text messages and they're like, did you throw a shaky head? No, it never crossed my mind. So, it's you always, and it seems like you get a lot of those calls on the bad days, and people are like, well, did you try this? It's like,
I think it's always the part about what happened. And you're kind of like, if I knew what happened, I would have caught 8 pounds, right?
Right.
I hate that text so much. What happened? Well, if I knew, I wouldn't have done bad,
That's right. That's exactly right. It's I think, Laker, it was you and I that had the discussion about this. To fish at the level you guys fish is pretty impressive. And what amazes me about it is, people say, well, fishing is not really a sport or it's not that hard. And I always go back to golf. I'm not a golfer. I can't hit a golf ball. I don't want to know how to hit a golf ball. But I know when I set that golf ball on the tee, it's not going to swim off all of a sudden. So my hat's off to you guys for being able to compete and do well at the level that you compete at. We've got a few questions coming in, but I want to move along and get both of your thoughts as younger anglers, the active target technology. For an old guy like me, I'm fighting it. I want everybody to use a flasher. I'm happy with that. Maybe just talk about that and maybe share a few tips of things y'all do to make that experience a little bit better from somebody that maybe doesn't do that well with active target.
The number one tip I can give old guys like you, Ricky, is when you get ready to look at the active target is get your glasses out.
Yep.
No. So yeah, active target is something that I've actually really become reliant on, and I look at it a lot, and I really enjoy looking at it and kind of tuning it and figuring out what I really like. And I guess one of the biggest things I could tell you to do when you're learning how to do it, when you're trying to figure out what you're looking at, is kind of what I've looked at, kind of things that I've done to figure out where I want it to be. And that's, set your aspects where it's right. If you're in 30 foot, throwing across a point, chasing spots or something like that, and you want to see the bottom, of course you want to see the bottom up under your boat. But if you shrink your zone down too small, then you're just looking at what's right there in front of you. So, I like to keep my aspect out there where if I'm sitting in 30 foot, I can still see to 100 foot, and I get used to kind of that ratio and what things look like on that ratio. So when I'm, you never want your bottom to be, super small. You don't want your water column to be crunched up where it's just at the very top edge of your screen. You kind of want it to take up the whole screen. Even if you've got some sloping bottom, you kind of want it to take up the majority of the screen, but you got to know what you're looking at when you have it in certain ratios to know whether that's a bait ball. Those are spots, those are, bass, it's all about just time in behind the graph screen.
The way I look at it, like you were just saying about not having your perspective too small on it, is kind of like for our deer hunters out there, you wouldn't look through your scope from the back of the butt of your gun, right? You don't want just a little bit of that deer in there. You want a full picture. So the bigger the picture, the easier it's going to be for you to actually know what's there. And the other side of it is I do a lot of graph setups out here, so I play with these on a lot of different people's boats. Mm-hmm. And the other side of it is when you get in that deeper water and you start playing around with it, you're going to feel like an idiot for the first week using it.
Yeah. Because
you got to play with the sensitivity on it. The sensitivity kind of allows you to see further out in more detail, but it makes the stuff up under your boat a lot hotter. So you got to learn what the hot stuff under your boat is. And the main thing I've noticed is, for me personally, I leave mine at 120 feet looking out. Now, I may not always catch one at 120 feet out, but if there's a brush pile out there, for instance, on the Coosa, and I'm scanning around with it, I may catch just the tip of it. And once you learn what a brush pile looks like, you can look way out there and see that little tip and be like, oh, look, there's a brush pile over there. I'm going to go that direction and fish it. Mm-hmm. And it may produce more bites for you in the tournament.
Yeah. And so, like you were saying, you keep yours at 100 foot. I normally keep mine either at 80 or 100, depending on what I'm looking for. But a lot of times when I'm looking for what I'm looking for may be a little different than what you're looking for. Because, a lot of times I'm chasing spots over deeper water and stuff like that. So I want to be able to not necessarily pick up on the brush pile. I want to pick up on the fish. Yeah. And back to what you were saying about the sensitivity is I keep mine extremely high.
Like over 87?
Yeah. So I would say, and I run the contrast up a little too. But yeah, I keep mine really high, and I have a lot of that noise, but I've looked at it long enough that I can distinguish what's noise and what may be just the tail of a fish or just something kind of getting out of the way. Fish coming straight at you or fish going straight away from you where it's just a super small blip. And I want to keep my sensitivity high enough to where I can see things like that and pick up on things like that. I keep mine high enough where I can see a crappie jig at 80 feet.
That's good.
And that's what I want, because if I'm throwing a swim bait over 30 or 40 foot of water and there's a fish down there, I can watch that swim bait, whether it's, super small, Kitech, I want to be able to see whatever it is I'm looking at, and I can reel it right into that fish or right above that fish or whatever it's taking to make that fish react. And so that's why I keep my stuff, and it is hard to look at, and it takes some getting used to, because there's a lot going on the screen when you have your sensitivity up that high. And it's just, it's one of those things that I've gotten used to, but it's just, time behind the graph and playing with different things and making sure that I don't miss anything. I even on my 2D, I keep my sensitivity on my 2D way high. Yeah. And it's just because that's how I'm comfortable to make sure that I don't miss anything. Well, if it comes under my boat or if it's out in front of my boat and my beam scans across it, I know it's there and I see it.
Yeah, the noise that you were talking about. So when you cut your sensitivity up, for someone that doesn't know what that means, the higher that sensitivity goes, you'll almost see the wavelengths going across your screen. And it's just very faint. It's just enough to where it could throw somebody off if you weren't really paying attention. So like you said, time behind the graph, it really does help distinguish what certain things are. I use mine a lot for guiding, for instance. So I'll be out there and I've got the Ethernet set. It's pretty cool. You set it to the back graph, and I can sit in my seat with people up on the front deck like in June and July when these fish out there on the big drops and stuff. And if I have my spot lock on, I can sit there and watch the movie screen and just tell them where to cast. And I'll see the bait go down to the fish and just tell them to get ready.
Right.
So if I bring my glasses, can y'all help me?
Yeah. Well, as long as you can see the screen, I can teach you.
Braxton, you know me too well. Look, guys, we've got a couple questions here. Let's go ahead and attack those now and get them answered, and then we'll see how much time we got left here towards the end. Mark Wallace wants to know what areas would you fish on Lake Jordan, and what baits would you use? Obviously, he's got a tournament going on there.
That's his question. You go for it.
Yeah. This time of year, full disclosure, I haven't been on Lake Jordan in probably 4 or 5 months. This time of year, I'm going to be looking at what the water's doing. I know we recently had a lot of rain down here. We're still getting some rain. I think we had like an inch the other day. So I'm going to be concentrating on what that water's doing, what that generation schedule is looking like. I'm going to try to find something. I'm going to try to find some current driven fish. I'm going to figure out when they're running that water, and I'm going to look for areas that water is flowing across, somewhere where those fish can tuck out of the current, eddies, things like that. And it's going to be shad baits. You may pick up a jig in some of those areas, but I'm looking for something for them to sit. They're so current oriented on the Coosa River, especially this time of year, that if the water's not running, you may go right across the winning fish and never even know they're there. But jerk bait, crankbait, buzz bait, spinner bait, walking bait, 3DB pencil. I'm going to have those baits on my deck, especially on the Coosa River this time of year.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Laker, this one's for you. What are your plans?
Well, obviously with my dad fishing up on the Bass Pro Tour, I like both trails. I don't have a problem with either one of them. And at the end of the day, it's just about wherever you can make the most money, in my opinion, because it's a business. And I feel like it'd just be more fun to be able to make it up to that Bass Pro level and fish against my dad. So right now I'm trying to qualify for the same trail that Braxton's in, the MLF Pro Circuit, the Tackle Warehouse Tour. And then if the Lord will allow me, I'll move up to the same level my dad's at one day, hopefully.
So with that being said, here's the question. You schooled Oakley in basketball. What's going to happen when you and your dad get on a lake together?
Now, I'm not going to go there because
All
I'm
right, Braxton. All right, he ain't going to go there.
Here's the thing. So, here's the thing. So, he does fish some Toyotas with me just for fun, and he almost made the championship this year through wild card. But right now, so I beat him here on Gunnersville, and then he whooped my butt bad at Del Holla. It was bad, dude. Like, that was terrible. And then I think he beat me again in Florida, and I think we're tied right now. So hopefully the next tournament he fishes against me, we'll have a little tiebreaker.
All right, how about basketball?
Oh, now basketball, I'm a good 6 inches taller than him, so it's kind of hard for him to get a hold of the ball.
All right, here is one I think both of y'all can kind of take a look at it. I think there's some typos in it, so we'll kind of work through the question. I think it's what's a good bait for bass fishing in the morning on a cloudy day and a sunny day. So what would be your two choices for those situations?
For a cloudy day, we do similar to what me and you did the other morning. We'd get on for instance, on Gunnersville, we'd get on a grass bar because these fish relate to a lot of just random grass this time of year. And in a cloudy morning, if the clouds stay up until about 9 o'clock, I'd more than likely keep a pencil type bait in my hand, the Livingston Walking Boss, and just really work with it. And if they weren't coming up for it for some unknown reason, you might want to pick up something that's a reaction style bait, like a spinner bait or a fluke or a one knocker trap, something flashy that'll really get them to kind of react if they're not wanting to come up and actually eat something like a walking bait, because it takes an aggressive fish to actually come up and blow something up that's getting away from them.
Right. What are your choices there, Braxton?
I cloudy mornings are what everybody dreams of when it's bass fishing, because that's notorious, power fishing. Those fish aren't tucked down in stuff, walking bait, buzz bait, spinner bait, moving baits in general, just covering water. Those fish are out, they're roaming, they're aggressive. They may be sitting up on top of the grass. They may be sitting out a little further away. You don't have to make that pinpoint flip into that lay down or up under the shady side of that dock or something like that. Their zone is bigger. They're roaming. They're not, sitting there trying to hide during the sun. Go aggressive on the cloudy days. Sunny mornings, you still got that window right at daylight. And then, as that sun starts getting up, they're looking to tuck up. They're going to go up under the boat docks. They're going to get in the shade. They're going to hide, bury down in the grass. You may have to pick up a flipping stick and punch some grass or something like that. They're still going to bite if you get it around them. It's just, it may be a little harder to get it around them on a sunny day because they're more tucked into specific areas where they feel comfortable and they're hiding, versus cloudy morning, they're just out doing their thing.
Yep.
So, we got another question here, and this one's all Braxton. We're gonna have to let him take hold of this one for a minute. But off the subject, but let's talk a little elk hunting.
Oh, I had a blast. I love elk hunting. So we actually just got back from a trip. We were gone for 10 days, but there's 4 days of driving involved there. So I was in Wyoming for 8 of those 10 days. On an elk hunt and had a blast. We were chasing bugle and elk during the rut with a bow. September, western Wyoming. Mornings were beautiful. Lows in the lows were in the 20s and 30s, and the highs were in the 60s and 70s, and it was fantastic because it was miserable when I left here. It was like 104. So I got out there and we put on a lot of miles. I think we were putting on about 8.5 miles a day is what we were averaging. And so, but
you're packing that too, right?
Oh yeah, it's all packed. Anything. This was a front country hunt, so we didn't actually pack in. It wasn't a backpack style hunt. Everything we were doing was just day hiking. We day hike in, hunt, and come out. Now, I do enjoy the backcountry hunting where you pack in and you're in there, for a week, and everything you take in is, you got a week's worth of food, some food, whatever you're going to sleep in, your tent and sleeping bag. And let's face it, at that point when you're carrying it up a mountain, you got like the clothes you have on, and that's it. So, it gets a little grungy when you go on the backcountry hunts, but I love it. I wish I lived a little closer to the mountains and could chase mule deer and elk and antelope all fall. That'd probably be all I did.
Did you kill anything?
Yeah, actually we did. I killed some grouse. So we killed some grouse. We had a couple opportunities where we had some elk in close. I didn't have the tag this year. I hunt with a good friend of mine, and when it comes to elk hunting, we do one tag a year because you're talking about if you have to carry an elk off the mountain, and that's what you got to do. You got to cut it up and pack it off the mountain. You're in even if you're only in 2 or 3 miles, you're still talking about carrying 500 pounds off a mountain on your back.
That's a lot.
And yeah, so realistically, it's going to take you a day to 2 days to get an animal off the mountain. So we have a limited time. We have to drive out there, and he's got a wife and kids at home and a job he's got to come back to. I got a wife and a son at home that I have to come back to. So it's not like we can spend a month out there. So one elk tag is about all we go for. Deer, antelope, that's a little different because you can kind of get those, back to the truck relatively quickly. But, had some opportunities, had some elk in close, bugling, and, just they're wild animals. They're smart. They don't,
Not like that golf ball you set on the tee.
Yeah. Well, and you talking about that golf ball comment. The only problem I have with golfing is, I've tried it and I've done it and it's kind of fun, but it doesn't matter how many times you hit that ball, it never gets tender enough to eat it. So
that's right. And I want to tell you something though, real quick. Laker came up. I guess it was his idea.
It's my dad's. I know what you're going.
Randy's idea about golf with a fishing rod. And where can they find that video? Is it on your Instagram?
It's on my Instagram. Yeah, it almost went viral. It kind of did. It got like 260 some thousand views on it. But so what we did was he's got this Kingsholm golf tournament every year they put on to try to raise money for the Kingsholm, Hannah Home stuff and make some extra money for that. But the cool thing was they asked him to be a free mulligan, and he can't play golf. He got this idea to drill a hole through the middle of the golf ball and tie it with 70-pound braid and put it on a big flipping stick. And dude, it looks a lot harder than it actually is. If you can flip and skip a jig, it's actually pretty easy. I mean, it's really fun.
Well, I will say the next time that if the three of us are ever together, we'll go find us a golf course and do some, I guess you call it golf fishing. That would be fun. I would be interested in trying that for sure. You down, Braxton, or what?
Yeah, I'd do it. As long as I don't have to swing a club.
That's right.
If I swing a club, there ain't no telling where it's going.
Maybe get Cody and a couple other guys to come do it with us. That sounds like fun. Hey, another question just popped up on the deal here, and I'm assuming that this is for this time of year. Would you be looking more to fish boat? Would you fish backside or boat of docks or points? So would you be looking to fish docks or points this time of year?
I'd probably be on this lake points. Docks don't play as big of a factor on this lake as they do in the Coosa.
Yeah. Docks are big players on the Coosa. It's all going to depend. I mean, I think I know what answer he's looking for, but it's all going to depend. Just in general, I don't think you could go wrong with either one of them as long as there was some kind of current involved on the Coosa. It's whatever. You're looking for something, if it's sunny, they may tuck up under the docks. Current breaks. Docks are going to break the current. They got poles. At least on the Coosa they do. They don't have poles everywhere, but the point can do the same thing. You catch the backside of that point, and there's a little, where that current rolls over top of it, and there's a little eddy, and they're sitting down under it, and they're going to snack on anything that comes washing over the top of it.
Yep, that's them easy.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to pitch this one to y'all, and then wait a minute. It's another one. Rex has got another one for you.
Uh-oh.
Square bills. I don't think you can go wrong with a square bill, especially this one right here.
Oh, he was
if I can get it in the camera. But, square bill, small square bill. This time of year, there's fish in less than 2 foot of water right now. Absolutely. Coosa River, if you're on the actual river, crank it around cypress trees. If you're on Lake Jordan, beat it around some stumps, beat it around blowdowns, beat it around boat docks. Anything you can deflect off of, square bill's money this time of year. There's fish up there. You may have to grind the bill off of 2 or 3 of them to catch 5, but there's fish up there that'll bite the square bill.
Yeah, it's a big player here in the grass too. You just gotta whip it out a whole lot more than that eelgrass. That eelgrass will get on your nerves sometimes with a square bill.
Yeah, just ticking the top of it.
That eelgrass will get on your nerves with anything that has treble hooks on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when the coots get in it and it's floating everywhere and you can't do anything winding. Yeah.
That is the worst feeling ever. You push the guide and you pull up to a spot and you see that stuff floating like a lake.
Yeah.
Between that and, it's just crazy.
Might as well pack it up and go on.
Yeah, just go to your next spot. I need medication to cope with it.
So, Braxton, we got Laker and I have a little story that we want to share and see if you got anything that even ever remotely comes close to this.
Oh,
we had to be at lunch on Sunday, right? Was it Sunday, Laker?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Here we come, pulling up to the dock. It's a single ramp, and there are 4 cops sitting there. So the first thing I said, they finally caught Laker. They finally caught it. But so we get up a little bit closer to the dock, and there's a truck sitting there with the windows rolled down and the keys in it. No boat anywhere.
In the middle of the ramp with the trailer halfway in the water. Perfect for someone just to back it down, get in the boat, go fishing. He just left it there.
Yep. So as the story goes, they finally, after an hour or so, get in touch with the guy. He backed in the water, got so excited talking to one of his buddies, they shot off to this, to where the school was or whatever. And he didn't forgot all about his truck and left it on the ramp.
Totally forgot his truck and trailer sitting there in the water.
Was it still running?
No, the truck was. I don't think the truck was running, was it?
The truck off, keys were in the ignition. The front window was rolled down on the driver's side. He just got excited and went fishing. He said, "Then 10-pounders were back."
So I would say that was a first for me for sure. I'm glad the guy was okay. First thought in my mind was, "Oh, this ain't good," but it ended up working out good. The guy was quite embarrassed walking up the ramp.
Oh, I can imagine. I don't have anything quite like that. I've seen some strange stuff at some boat ramps. I actually one winter, I watched a guy. It was cold. It was really cold. It was in the teens, and we were trying to get the boats in the water. And it was one of those deals where, as soon as the boat would pull out, if the next boat wasn't backing down, the ramp would freeze. And the guy got a little over ambitious and went to slide his boat in there, and his whole rig went right up under the dock. And it was not a good situation, but I've never seen anybody just leave it all sitting on the ramp and say, I'm gone.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, no other way to put it. So look, we're getting close to an hour here. I want to shut this thing down, but first I want to give y'all both the opportunity to talk about 3 baits you will not go fishing in the fall without. Laker, why don't you take it, and we'll let Braxton finish it up.
3 baits in general or on a specific lake?
3 baits in general that if somebody's saying, "Hey, I'm going fishing in the fall, I'm going to the tackle shop, what are 3 baits I should buy?"
100% gonna have a Livingston walking boss in the bone color. Bone in anything this time of year on top water is good because they're chasing shad. So that'd be number 1. I'd have that on my deck anywhere across the country. Second bait would probably be a buzz bait because I'm a shallow fisherman at heart, and that's a reaction style shad bait. And then third, it's tough because but a spinner bait's good, but I think a popping frog holds a special place in my heart this time of year on the edge of stuff.
Yeah, if there's an edge of something to fish, then a popping frog is a good
fish. Yeah.
Three baits I'm not going anywhere without. Probably going to be the Yo-Zuri square bill, the one I showed you just a minute ago. It's a killer this time of year. Shad pattern, small body, bait small. Then probably this guy right here, Yo-Zuri 3DB 5-inch pencil, walking bait. Great shad imitation. It's good in clear water. It's good in dirty water. It's just a good bait, especially in the fall. And then I'm looking at probably my next bait's probably going to be. It's tough whether it's a buzz bait or something like the Nichols pulsator spinner bait. This is a good one. Main thing for me in the fall is dirty water. Yeah, I may go gold, may go double Colorados. In the cleaner water, I'm probably going willows, double willows, but keep the blades small. Keep the skirt shad colored. Keep the blades small. The majority of the shad this time of year are little. So, those three right there, they're probably going to be strapped to the deck of the boat. All fall.
Awesome. My buddy Lenny Baird, he's a Potomac River hammer and a pretty dang good co-angler. Threw this question out there to you two guys.
Two baits a co has to have tied on for Pickwick. Pickwick's an interesting place. That's arguably probably the best lake on the Tennessee River. It's got so many fish in it, man. But a co-angler in general, anywhere you really go, a drop shot is hard to beat, especially just fling that thing around anywhere you go in the country, and that really whacks them. And then, something else would probably be for Pickwick right now. I would have to say a Cinco, because those fish are the ones that your boater's going to be fishing for are more than likely going to be active fish, and a co-angler is going to kind of get second picking. So a Cinco and a drop shot, just slow stuff to kind of pick up the fish he's not catching.
When you say a Cinco, do you mean a wacky rig Cinco?
Yeah, a wacky rig, weightless Cinco, just anything green pumpkin, the old classic.
You know my thoughts on that, so we'll move right along to Braxton.
I can't. A lot of that depends on the time of year, but I can't disagree with either one of those. Drop shot. I caught a lot of fish on drop shot behind guys. Had some big days on a drop shot behind guys. It catches fish, and doesn't matter where you're at, it catches them. Cinco, wacky rig Cinco. There's probably one on my deck right now. So
I'm assuming that Lenny's talking about that Toyota championship that's coming up on Pickwick. That's in 2 weeks or something. So I don't know if that helps your thoughts on that or not, but
yeah.
And don't let Lenny fool you. He's about as good as they come around here. He's that guy that you see at the ramp, and you're like, well, he's one of the ones that's either going to beat me or I got to beat him. So don't let him fool you there.
A jackhammer is going to play a big factor at that tournament this time of year as well.
What's that?
A jackhammer. A jackhammer is going to play a big factor as well in that tournament.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to depend on whether that this time of year on Pickwick is one of those. It's kind of a wild card because you could, especially as a co-angler, you could get somebody that's fishing smallmouth in the current, in the tail race in the river. You can get somebody that's fishing the grass down the lake. I don't know what the grass looks like up there this time of year. I haven't been up there. This year.
Sparse.
Yeah, so you may have a guy doing that. If he does, Cinco, maybe trap a little bit if you can, as long as it's not too topped out. If you're smallmouth fishing, topwater crankbait, small swim bait, Tennessee River smallmouth there.
Gotcha, and that brings up this small swim bait. We're getting ready for that BFL regional at Hartwell coming up. I know you got some experience there, Braxton. Just throw it out there. What would you be throwing there?
BFL regional at Hartwell. I'm probably going to be running down the bank 100 miles an hour, throwing a moving bait up shallow. Buzz bait, spinner bait, crankbait, looking for – Hartwell has big spots in it. It does.
Is it Hartwell or Murray? It might be Murray. I think it's Murray. I might have misspoke.
Oh, if it's Murray, that's different.
Yeah, I think it's Murray.
Yeah, I'm probably still going to say I'm going to be running the banks shallow. I think the brush pile deal may be probably pretty well and over. I don't know what the water temperature is. Maybe pretty well and over. But, buzz bait, 5-inch pencil, crankbait, spinnerbait. If it says Nichols or Yo-Zuri on it, you probably need to be throwing it.
I love it. Well, look, guys, I appreciate your time, Braxton. Laker, thanks for joining me and helping me with this again tonight. We'll have him back on to assist. Makes it easier when I got somebody to tease and I'm not the one getting teased. Braxton, I'm excited to get the year started. It's going to be a good season. Laker, you're supposed to be coming up here sometime soon, I think. Hey, Kerry Meyer, how you doing? And if anybody's been following Cody, I think he's been to every pumpkin patch in Idaho. That's like his thing.
And Carrie's taking a picture of it there.
And she has. And Carrie says hi, Braxton, as well.
Hello, Carrie.
Yeah, so it's going to be an exciting season. Laker, I can't wait to see where you end up. I've had the pleasure to be in the boat with you, and I see the passion. You got a very bright future in front of you. Just don't get frustrated. It's a tough game that y'all play, and you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. So again, guys, thanks a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this thing down, but to our viewers, if you have anybody you want to see on here, any particular topic, just drop me a message on Instagram or Facebook or Laker too. You can hit them up as well. I do have to say that if you're in the Guntersville area and you're looking for a guide, hit Laker up. I mean, it'll be well worth every dollar you spend, and just watching his excitement is, it's worth every penny of the trip. Braxton, go take care of that baby, and we will talk soon, my man.
Yeah, y'all be sure to stay tuned. One last thing, y'all be sure to stay tuned because I think we may have a pretty big announcement as sponsorship-wise coming here pretty soon. So stay tuned. My page, Bass365, we'll run it through there when it happens. But looking forward to making the announcement.
We do have a big one. That's all I could do. You had to bring it up. But anyway, we'll leave that alone right now. Do you have any time frame on when that announcement will happen?
No, not really sure. We'll just have to play it by ear and see. I'll be in touch with you, and we'll talk about that and get a date nailed down of when we'll make that. We'll get some planning together and maybe do it in person. Yep, sounds good, man. All right, brother. Hey guys, thanks a lot, Laker. I'll talk to you. I've got some stuff coming your way tomorrow, Braxton. If you need anything, you know where to find me. Yep, sounds good.
See ya.
We're out.